My own mother is unstable, Lauren sobbed into the camera. She forged everything. Inside the courthouse, Judy clutched a folder of proof, documents Lauren had signed in her name, a forged mortgage, a fake notary, her life stolen by blood. She's lying to save herself, the lawyer whispered. Judy didn't blink. She's about to learn who taught her how to survive. Mother versus daughter. One truth, one trial, and only one would walk out whole. Wait, before we go any further, I gotta ask, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments and don't forget to subscribe. The scent of eucalyptus and champagne lingered in the air, masking the sharp edge of chlorine wafting from the pool outside. The backyard had been transformed into something straight out of a bridal magazine. String lights, a live jazz trio, white linen canopies swaying gently in the California breeze. And right at the center of it all stood Lauren, 35, radiant in a pale lilac sheath dress that looked like it cost more than Judy's first car. Judy adjusted the sleeve of her vintage cardigan and watched from the shadows near the sliding door, one hand lightly grazing the stem of a half-empty glass of Chardonnay. This was her daughter's night, technically, but it had been Judy's savings, her sacrifice, and though no one knew it yet, her loss. She'd sold the sapphire brooch last month, the one her own mother had worn at her wedding, the one she always imagined passing down to Lauren someday, wrapped in velvet and history. It didn't fetch as much as she hoped, but enough to book the caterer, rent the heaters, and ensure Lauren's 35th looked Pinterest perfect. Lauren didn't know that part, and Judy hadn't planned to tell her, not until she overheard. Just make sure she doesn't start talking too much, Lauren muttered as she leaned into her husband Kyle. They stood just around the corner from the bar setup, unaware Judy was tucked by the patio curtain, sipping and staying invisible. I mean it, Lauren continued. She better not cause a scene tonight. Judy's breath hitched. Kyle chuckled softly. She won't. She's just old school. Let her say her little thank you and then we move on. Judy stayed perfectly still. Something in her cracked, but it didn't show on her face. Not yet. She turned slowly and stepped back into the house before either of them could see her. Inside, voices laughed over crudités. Someone asked Alexa to skip the jazz and play something more upbeat. Judy's name floated nowhere. Her presence, it seemed, had not made the guest list. She passed the hallway mirror on her way to the powder room. The reflection startled her, older than she remembered, the silver streaks in her hair catching the vanity light like scars. She pressed a hand to her cheek, willing herself back into the night. Back on the patio, people were raising glasses already. Someone clinked a fork against a wine flute. Lauren stood near the tiered birthday cake, thanking her Pilates coach, her business partner, even the friend who helped her pick out the floral arrangements. The applause was polite, filtered through smiles and champagne. Not a word about Judy. Not one. Before dessert, Lauren announced brightly, my mom wants to say a few words. Polite claps again. One man muttered, didn't even know her mom was here. Judy stepped forward. Her heels wobbled slightly on the flagstone, but her voice didn't. Not yet. Thank you, Lauren, she said, her smile thin and sharp. And thank you all for coming. It's a beautiful evening, beautiful cake, beautiful lighting. A few chuckles. Judy raised her glass. Lauren always did have a flair for presentation. Even when she was 6 years old and used my good lipstick to decorate the dog. We laughed about it later. Much later. The laughter turned hesitant. I remember working doubles at the diner to buy her first bicycle. She told me it was too ugly to ride, so I painted it in the garage after midnight, hoping she'd like it better. She paused. She never said if she did. Lauren's smile was frozen now, lips stretched tight like a bow, ready to snap. I won't take up much time, Judy said, reaching into her purse. I know everyone's eager for cake. She pulled out a folded piece of paper, crisp, white, and official-looking. The gold county seal gleamed under the patio lights. Judy unfolded it slowly. The house you're all standing in, she said, voice now carrying just enough to silence the chatter, is no longer hers. Lauren's face drained of color. A silence fell over the crowd, not awkward this time, but stunned, heavy. Somewhere a glass clinked against tile and shattered. Judy smiled faintly and lifted her glass. "So let's toast to new beginnings." Then she sipped, slowly, watching her daughter crumble in real time. The silence lasted long enough for the jazz trio to stop mid-song. Judy let it breathe. Let them all sit in it. Guests holding their drinks mid-air, servers pausing at the edge of the crowd, Lauren locked in a frozen smile that looked more like a grimace. She could see it starting now. The shift, the subtle unraveling, and yet she didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "This house," Judy said, holding the document gently, like it might dissolve under too much pressure, "has a history most of you don't know." Someone coughed. A few heads turned. Judy took a step closer to the edge of the poolside canopy, the gold seal on the paper catching the light again like a siren flare. "I bought it in 1989, she continued, her voice steady. "With no help, no child support, no family trust fund, just 3 jobs, 2 overdraft fees a week, and one daughter who thought instant ramen was just noodle night." A chuckle came from somewhere, nervous and misplaced. It died quickly. "I worked at the diner from 6 to 2, then stocked shelves at the drugstore until midnight. Some nights I cleaned offices downtown. I'd come home, peel off my uniform, and sleep on the couch so Lauren could have the bed." She looked at her daughter now. Lauren's face was tight, blinking too fast. "But that's ancient history, right?" Judy said with a sad, sharp smile. "You don't bring that up at parties, not when the wine is imported and the flowers are flown in." Someone shifted uncomfortably behind the dessert table. Lauren finally stepped forward. Okay, let's— Mom, you've had a little wine." "I have," Judy said, lifting her glass slightly, "but not nearly as much as I drank the night your father left us with 2 garbage bags and a bounced check." The room inhaled. "Mom!" Lauren hissed through clenched teeth, her voice barely audible. "Enough." "No," Judy said, her voice cool now, not angry, measured. "This is what enough looks like." She held the deed higher. "This paper says something simple. It says the woman who scrubbed bathrooms and sold her wedding jewelry now owns this house outright." Judy paused, letting the word owns settle like sediment in water. "Not jointly, not partially, not in spirit, legally, wholly, mine." A ripple of murmurs moved through the party like static. One of the guests, Lauren's Pilates friend, the one in the backless jumpsuit, leaned over to whisper, "Is this a performance piece?" Lauren tried to laugh. "Guys, relax. It's a joke. My mom's always had a flair for dramatics." But Judy's expression didn't budge. "It's not a joke," she said flatly. "I took back the house last month, quietly, carefully, because I got tired of knocking on my own bedroom door." Kyle moved beside Lauren now, his hand on her arm. "Maybe we should step inside," he said low, almost pleading. "No," Judy said. "Let's stay right here, in front of the champagne tower and the imported charcuterie. Let's stay right here in the house that 3 jobs and 2 decades paid for." Lauren turned to her, voice dropping an octave. "You're humiliating me." "No," Judy whispered. "You did that when you erased me from my own life." The wind picked up just then, lifting the edge of the deed in her hand like an afterthought. Judy tucked it back into her purse and zipped it shut. "I'll be out by the end of the week," she added. Softer now, almost kind. "And so will you." The lights flickered slightly. Someone had leaned on a switch inside, maybe by accident, but it added to the sense that the whole evening was losing power, bleeding polish. Lauren's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Judy stepped away from the patio and began to walk through the crowd, past stunned guests, down the stone path toward the side gate. She didn't look back. Just before she reached the edge of the lawn, a voice called after her. It was Kyle. What do you mean you'll be out?" Judy didn't stop walking, but her answer, cool and razor-thin, floated back across the lawn. "I already sold it." The drive home should have felt victorious. Instead, Judy gripped the steering wheel like it owed her an apology. The road blurred slightly in her peripheral vision, not from speed, but from the weight of what had just happened. The silence in the car was deafening, but this one belonged to her. No jazz trio, no laughter bouncing off patio tile, no daughter performing gratitude like a dress rehearsal. Just the truth now, raw and unwrapped. She didn't go back to her temporary rental. She drove past it, turned right at the old fire station, then left into the neighborhood that had both built her and buried her. Pulling up in front of the house, her house still for a few more days, Judy killed the engine but didn't get out. Instead, she stared at the porch, where a strand of fairy lights still blinked, oblivious. This was where it began. She had bought the place in a panic, alone, broke, and 5 months after Lauren's father disappeared into the smog of Las Vegas and alimony evasion. The realtor tried to talk her out of it. "Too big for one woman and a kid," he said. "Needs foundation work. Price'll drop next year." But Judy was done waiting on men who promised next year's. She took a cashier's check, scraped from the last of her savings, and moved in 2 days before Christmas. No tree, no furniture except a card table and a borrowed mattress. Lauren was 9, still believed in magic. That night, Judy taped paper snowflakes to the living room windows and told her daughter they'd fallen into a grown-up fairy tale. That was before she realized the fairy godmother wasn't coming. She'd have to be her own. In the rearview mirror, Judy caught her own reflection. Eyes older now, harder. She blinked and saw Lauren, 7 or maybe 8, spinning barefoot in the yard in a red plastic hula hoop, giggling until she collapsed in the grass. Judy remembered watching her from the kitchen, hands deep in a sink full of dishes, heart aching with a strange, warm hope that maybe, just maybe, this house could keep them safe. It almost had. Years later, when Lauren came back from college with a shiny degree, a diamond on her finger, and big dreams, Judy had welcomed them both. Kyle had manners. Lauren had ambition. "We'll all live together for a while," she'd said. "You shouldn't be here alone, Mom." Judy had believed her. Signed the co-ownership papers without a second glance, thinking it was an act of trust. It was her mistake, trusting without reading the fine print. Not the legal kind, the emotional kind. At first, it was subtle. Lauren repainted the kitchen, then the bedroom, then said certain areas were better left private. One day, Judy came home to find a keypad lock on the pantry, then the basement door, then, shockingly, her own bedroom. Lauren called it security. By the time Judy realized she wasn't being included, she was being contained, it was already happening. Cameras appeared. Rules, too. Text before you have people over. Don't rearrange the fridge. We just want to keep things organized. Judy felt herself shrinking inside the home she'd once bled for. It wasn't the cameras that broke her, or the cold tone in Kyle's voice. It was a Tuesday night when Judy asked if they could host Thanksgiving that year. Lauren had looked up from her laptop and said, "We'll think about it." We. As if Judy was the guest. That was the moment Judy stopped asking. She pulled herself together over the next year, quietly, consulted a title specialist, met with a lawyer who specialized in retroactive ownership disputes. Turns out Lauren's name had only ever been added in a co-residency clause, not full deed transfer. A loophole. A window Judy pried open with both hands. She hired a notary, filed the forms, and paid the fees from a checking account Lauren didn't know existed. The title reverted. Judy never told her. Until tonight. She finally opened the car door and stepped out. The lawn crunched under her heels, patches of it yellow from too many missed waterings while Lauren prioritized aesthetic succulents. Judy reached into her coat pocket, pulling out the old brass house key, its edges worn from years of use. She stared at it for a long second before slipping it into the lock. It still turned smooth, like it had been waiting for her. Inside, the air smelled like lavender plug-ins and something vaguely synthetic. Lauren's decorating style always leaned toward the curated, the impersonal. But Judy bypassed it all, marble countertops, minimalist frames, and made her way upstairs. She stopped at the bedroom Lauren had taken over. The door was slightly ajar. Judy pushed it open and froze. Inside, taped across the far wall, was a giant real estate flyer with the words, "Coming soon, luxury home for lease," printed in glossy font. Her house, listed under Lauren's name. She stepped closer. Her stomach sank. Below the image, scrawled in pen, "Application approved. Keys to be delivered by Friday." The next morning, Judy sat in the sunroom, the lease flyer still clenched in her hand like a war relic. The daylight filtered through the frosted glass, softening everything, except her resolve. She'd already made her decision. This just confirmed the urgency. She turned on her laptop, the one Lauren used to call ancient, and clicked through her bookmarked contacts until she found the name, Tina Morales. Residential real estate, quiet sales preferred. The call went straight through. Judy didn't waste time. "I want to sell. Fast, cash if possible." Tina asked no questions, only said, "I can be there this afternoon." They met at a small coffee shop off Ventura, neutral ground. Tina was younger than Judy expected, mid-30s, whip-smart eyes, wore confidence like armor. She reviewed the deed transfer and inspection reports with quiet efficiency, occasionally glancing at Judy like she was trying to place her story. "You know," Tina finally said, flipping to a digital tablet, "this place is technically under-earning." Judy raised a brow. "How do you mean?" Tina turned the screen. "I ran a background inquiry. There were 5 short-term rental listings attached to your property over the last year. Different names. Slight variations in the address. Unit A, Suite 2, lower level." Judy stared. Tina kept her tone professional. "They've been pulling in close to $6,000 a month, conservatively, all tied to Venmo deposits under an account named LNR Realty Group LNR Lauren Noel Richards." Judy sat back. Her hand gripped the table's edge. "She didn't ask. Didn't tell me." Tina's voice softened. "You want to involve a lawyer?" "No," Judy said. "Just buyers." The next few days moved with surgical speed. Tina had connections, investors looking for properties they could flip or lease with minimal upgrades. Judy walked through the inspection quietly, barely speaking, answering questions like someone listing items for donation. "This is a beautiful lot," one buyer said. "Original flooring?" "Yes," Judy replied. "Every scratch has a story." They loved that line. The offers started coming in that evening. On Thursday morning, Judy stood in Tina's office with a fountain pen between her fingers, staring at the closing documents. "Title's clear," Tina said. "You're free to sign whenever you're ready." Judy didn't hesitate. She signed each page like it was a letter to her younger self, each loop and stroke a vow to never again disappear inside her own home. When she finished, she slid the pen across the table and exhaled like she hadn't in years. Tina smiled. "You did it." "I did." The papers were neatly stacked, clipped, notarized. The house was sold. Final escrow would close within 72 hours. Judy slipped her phone from her purse, opened her notes app, and typed a single sentence. "She tried to lease my legacy." Then, almost without thinking, she added a second line. "This is your real birthday gift." She hit save, and for the first time in months, maybe years, she smiled, genuine, unguarded. Later that night, Judy returned to the house one final time. The lights were off. Kyle's car was gone. Lauren's SUV sat in the driveway like nothing had changed. Judy stood on the porch, keys in hand, and rang the doorbell anyway. Lauren opened the door in silk pajamas, mascara smudged like she'd been crying. "I don't want to fight," she said, voice brittle. Judy nodded. "Then don't." She reached into her coat, pulled out a sealed envelope, and pressed it into Lauren's palm. "What is this?" Judy stepped back onto the welcome mat. "It's the final deed transfer. The house is sold. Closing's in 2 days." Lauren's mouth parted, words nowhere to be found. Judy leaned in. This is the real party favor. Hope you kept the gift bags." She turned and descended the steps. But before she reached the car, Lauren's voice cracked behind her. "Why now?" Judy paused. The wind kicked up, rustling through the hedges. Without turning, she said, "Because you rented out my life and called it income." Then she got in the car and drove off into the dark, leaving the porch light and Lauren still blinking behind her. The call came at 8:14 a.m. Not early enough to be urgent, but not late enough to ignore. Judy glanced at the screen. Harper Glassman, Esquire. She slid her glasses up the bridge of her nose and answered on the second ring. "I've got something," Harper said. "And you're going to want to sit down." Judy, already seated in the breakfast nook of her rented apartment, didn't flinch. "What is it?" There was a pause, just long enough to raise her blood pressure. "Your daughter," Harper began, voice measured, "initiated a partial refinance on the property 9 months ago. She used your name, signed the documents. You were listed as the primary borrower." Judy blinked, then laughed, short, humorless. "That's not possible." "It is if someone has access to your driver's license, social security number, birth certificate, which, let's be honest, she probably did." Judy felt the air thin around her. "How much?" $75,000, Harper replied, disbursed across 2 payouts. "The notary she used? Fraudulent. We traced the signature. It's a scan of one you used on a DMV form years ago." The edges of Judy's vision went soft. She steadied her breathing with a sip of cold coffee, then asked, "Can we nail her for this?" "Oh, we're not just nailing her," Harper said. "We're stapling the timeline to a county fraud investigation. I already filed an alert with the Property Records Office. The moment escrow closes, we submit the full complaint." Judy nodded slowly. Her hands felt hot, her chest strangely calm. "Do it." That afternoon she drove to the bank. The teller, a young man with a haircut too precise to trust, asked if she was sure she wanted to sever all joint accounts. "Yes," Judy said, "every single one." "And you want to remove Lauren Richards from all authorized user status?" "Yes." "And revoke?" "Yes." The man hesitated. "Ma'am, she'll be notified. It could create tension." Judy smiled. "I'm counting on it." By the time she reached the old house that evening, Kyle was already waiting on the porch. He had 2 mugs in his hands, tea if she had to guess, probably herbal. His face looked worn. The polished husband veneer was chipping fast. "I wanted to talk," he said before she could pass him. "Can we not do this with firebombs?" Judy raised an eyebrow. "What would you call a forged mortgage?" He swallowed. "I didn't know. I swear to God. She told me everything was above board, that it was just paperwork to optimize cash flow. I didn't—" "I believe you," Judy said, surprising even herself. "Because you weren't smart enough to pull it off." Kyle blinked. "Okay, that's fair." He handed her one of the mugs. She took it reflexively, but didn't drink. "Lauren's spiraling," he added. "She's talking lawsuits, defamation. She even mentioned trying to reverse the sale." "She can try," Judy said, "but she'd have to do it without her power of attorney. I revoked it yesterday." Kyle rubbed the back of his neck. "I told her she needed to come clean. She wouldn't. Said you'd get over it." Judy's voice dropped an octave. "She rented out rooms in a house I built from scratch. She forged my name on a refinance. She turned me into a ghost in my own history. I'm not getting over it, Kyle. I'm moving past it, with a county prosecutor and a folder full of documentation." He was quiet for a moment, then said, "I don't think she understands what she's set in motion." "Oh, she will." Judy stepped past him and opened the front door with the key still legally hers for 2 more days. She turned in the doorway. "Tell her to check the mail tomorrow." "What's coming?" Judy's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Consequences." She stepped inside without inviting him. The next morning, Judy stood in line at the county courthouse, folder in hand. Inside, her mother's deed, the forged mortgage files, notarization discrepancies, email threads, text screenshots, even a photo of the fake signature matched against DMV records. As she approached the clerk's window, her phone buzzed. "Lauren." She let it ring, then again, then a third time. She answered, if only to end it. "You need to stop," Lauren's voice snapped. "You're going to destroy everything." "No," Judy said, calm as winter ice. "You already did. I'm just sending out the invitations to the funeral." Harper's voice came through the phone with the crispness of a scalpel. "I found something buried in the second refinance packet," she said. "Unsigned, dated 6 weeks before the last forged document." Judy paused mid-step outside the county recorder's office. "What kind of document?" Harper exhaled. "A quitclaim draft." It suggests Lauren tried to remove your name from the mortgage but never filed it, and it wasn't notarized. She probably chickened out halfway. Judy's hand went to her chest, instinctively checking for a heartbeat she wasn't sure she still trusted. What does that mean legally? It means she didn't just forge your name on a refinance. She attempted to erase you entirely. That's mortgage fraud layered on attempted title fraud, double charges, and since the amendment wasn't executed, any financing obtained using it is invalid on its face. Judy leaned against a pillar. So she has no legal leg to stand on. Not even a toe, Harper said. This gives us civil damages at minimum, possibly criminal. You want to escalate? There was no hesitation this time. Do it! 2 days later, Judy met with the assistant district attorney in a nondescript beige office building on the east side of the county complex. The woman, DA Melissa Ingram, wore plain heels and didn't bother offering coffee. Judy liked her instantly. I've reviewed the documents, Ingram said, flipping through a folder that looked like it had gained weight since Judy last saw it. If we pursue this, we're talking about a Class C felony. Fraud over $50,000, up to 5 years. Judy didn't flinch. And the forged signature? Forgery of legal instruments adds another layer, plus possible perjury if she signed under penalty of truth anywhere. Judy folded her hands. So she won't just lose the house. She'll lose everything, Ingram said, then added with a shrug, if we go forward. The question hovered like smoke. Judy looked down at her hands, older now, but steady. She used my name like a debit card, Judy said quietly. You move forward. In the days that followed, the quiet started to turn. The neighbors, people who'd smiled tight-lipped hellos for years, began to change. Judy could feel it when she returned to drop off keys for the buyer's agent or to finalize meter readings. One woman from the corner lot, Dolores, actually stepped across the sidewalk and leaned in with a whisper. Always thought that girl was a little slippery. Judy raised an eyebrow. Used to say you were senile when I asked about you, claimed you moved out years ago, said she was your full-time caretaker. Judy blinked. Dolores gave her a pitying look. You raised her in that house, didn't you? Judy nodded. Built it brick by brick. Dolores sighed. Some kids don't deserve the homes they inherit. It wasn't much, but it was more than Judy had heard in years. That night, Judy sat at her laptop and transferred the last of the utilities to the new buyer's name. Water, power, internet, trash pickup, all finalized. Each line she typed felt like a quiet goodbye to a life that had long stopped welcoming her. She clicked through the final screen on the gas company's portal. Are you sure you wish to disconnect service? Yes. The house was no longer hers, not in the legal sense anyway, but more importantly, it was no longer Lauren's playground. Her phone buzzed again. Lauren. Judy didn't answer. Instead, she opened her text thread with Harper and sent one word. Done. She stared at the word for a moment, then added a second. Delivered. A minute later, Harper replied, She's going to feel this before she sees it. Judy smiled, but just as she stood to make tea, her phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. A text came through. We need to talk. She's spiraling. She's talking to someone I don't trust. Kyle. Judy stared at the screen, pulse ticking louder. Another message came seconds later. You should check the refinance account. Something's missing. The first time Judy saw the video, it was on mute, autoplaying in a sidebar as she checked the county website for escrow confirmation. At first, she didn't recognize the thumbnail. It was a still of Lauren, tear-streaked and sitting cross-legged on a beige couch, flanked by soft lighting and a strategically placed tissue box. She clicked, then unmuted. I didn't want to say anything publicly, Lauren began, her voice trembling just enough to seem sincere. But my mother, she's not well. Judy's stomach turned. She's been struggling mentally for years. Delusions, paranoia. We've tried to help her, but it's hard when someone won't accept love. Cut to a photo montage. Judy at Lauren's graduation. Judy at a hospital waiting room. Judy blurry in the background of a family barbecue like a ghost. She became obsessed with control, Lauren continued. Started accusing us of stealing from her, of plotting. She even tried to sabotage our home, her own grandson's safe space. It broke my heart. The video ended with Lauren dabbing at her eyes. Judy stared at the screen for a full minute. The views were climbing, tens of thousands. The comments were already flooded. "This is heartbreaking." "Sending love." "She's so brave." Brave. Judy closed her laptop gently, like if she moved too fast, the betrayal might explode. Then she stood, poured herself a glass of water, drank the entire thing standing at the sink. Her hands were steady, but her heart wasn't. She had known Lauren would fight dirty, but this was arsenic in sugar. Judy reopened her laptop. This time, she didn't search property records. She searched for Marla Feldman, local investigative reporter. They met 2 days later in a diner off the 101, vinyl booths, burnt coffee, and the hum of old men nursing bacon. Marla wore denim and boots, carried a recorder the size of a lipstick, and looked at Judy like she was worth listening to. "I'm not here for a puff piece," Judy said as she slid over the manila folder. "Good," Marla replied. "I'm not here to write one." Inside the folder, the deed history, the refinance documents, notarization forensics, and 3 separate bank statements showing Lauren depositing rental income into a personal LLC. "And this," Judy said, slipping over an envelope, "is the note she left me on my birthday. It's a printed Venmo request for the wine she served." Marla blinked. "Seriously?" Judy smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Dead serious." The article dropped on a Friday morning. The real estate war inside a California home, one mother's fight for her name. It was less exposé, more slow-burn firestorm. Marla didn't embellish. She didn't need to. The facts hit harder than spin. Sacrifices made, titles forged, a daughter turned landlord, a mother who scrubbed bathrooms to build a home, only to be edited out of it. By Sunday, Judy's inbox had over 400 unread messages. "I watched your interview. You reminded me of my mom. My daughter did the same to me. Thank you for speaking up." One woman sent a photo of her own daughter's eviction notice with a note that read, "This time I fought back. Because of you." Judy read every single message. Twice. She created a blog that night. A simple page, no frills. The Truth According to Deeds. She posted a timeline, scanned PDFs, and snapshots of letters she'd written to herself over the years and never mailed. She uploaded voice memos, gritty, unedited, full of pauses and breath, her life in her voice. No filters, no soft lighting. The next morning, a message came in from a woman in Ohio. "I found your blog by accident. It felt like someone cracked open my own silence." Judy pressed a hand to her chest. This time, the heartbeat was steady. That afternoon, she received an email from Kyle. The subject line was just one word: emergency. The message read, "Lauren's losing it. She's posting videos at 2 a.m. talking about suing the reporter, threatening you. She called someone from her gym, a guy named Jordan who's in digital reputation management. He's already flagged your blog. I think they're trying to bury you online." At the bottom was a screenshot. Lauren's latest video title, "The Woman Who Raised Me Was a Stranger." And beneath it, an automated flag warning viewers, "Content under review for potential privacy violations." Judy didn't panic. She clicked record on her phone and stared directly into the lens. "This time," she said, her voice low but certain, "you don't get to write the ending." The lawyer's office was quiet, like it was designed for grief. Not the messy kind, the kind you process in tailored suits with dry eyes and dotted lines. Judy sat across from a young estate attorney who looked like she still used her law school backpack. Her nameplate read, "Carla Grant, J.D." Her voice was gentle but not condescending. That was enough. "I'd like to update my will," Judy said, sliding over a folder with a rubber band around it. "Remove my daughter, entirely." Carla didn't blink. "You're the testator. You can designate whomever you want." "I know," Judy said. "I just wanted to hear someone else say it." They went line by line. Judy's retirement account, her pension, the modest life insurance policy, the contents of her safety deposit box. It wasn't much, not by the world's standards, but it was everything Judy had built with blistered hands and swallowed pride. "I'd like to name a nonprofit as beneficiary," Judy said. "One for single mothers. Real ones. The kind who don't get to check out when it's hard." Carla looked up, surprised. "You're sure? That's the bulk of your estate?" "I'm sure." Judy signed the final page. Her signature came out stronger than it had in years. Later that day, she stopped by the public library. Not to borrow books, to see her grandson. Ben had agreed to meet her there, on neutral ground, away from Lauren's voice or judgment. He was 17, tall like Kyle, quiet like Judy had once been. When he spotted her at the back table, he didn't wave. He just sat across from her, backpack slung low, like he was preparing for a final exam he hadn't studied for. "I just wanted to see you," Judy said gently. Without filters, without headlines. Ben nodded, eyes fixed on the laminated table. "Mom says you're trying to ruin us." Judy smiled, sad and knowing. "She's been saying that since you were 5 and I didn't bring her the right cake." Silence stretched between them, filled with all the words he was too young or too afraid to ask. "I'm not angry at you, Ben," Judy said, "but I need you to hear something." He looked up. "You still have a choice to be better than her." His jaw tightened. "She says you left her." "No," Judy said. "She shut the door and I stopped knocking." She reached across the table, resting her hand near his, not touching, just near. "I don't expect anything from you. I just needed to leave the truth where you could find it someday." He nodded. It was small, but real. It was enough. 2 weeks later, Lauren tried to contest the will. She stormed into Carla Grant's office, waving papers and accusations, threatening to go public again. Carla calmly listened. Then she reached into a drawer and pulled out a single document, Judy's video testimony, time-stamped, sealed, and witnessed. Lauren watched 30 seconds of it before rising, red-faced. "This is emotional blackmail." "No," Carla said, standing as well. "This is legal clarity." By the time Lauren reached the parking lot, her voice had risen loud enough for the receptionist to hear her shout, "She's dead to me." Inside, Carla sat back down and texted Judy one word: handled. That night, Judy sat on the edge of her bed and recorded one more video. Not for public release, just for Ben. She spoke slowly, carefully, about the night she walked 5 miles to the diner in a thunderstorm because she couldn't afford bus fare, about buying a prom dress off a clearance rack and stitching it to fit, about what it felt like to hold her newborn daughter and believe, for a moment, that love alone would be enough. "I know you've heard a lot of noise," she said, "but the truth doesn't shout. It just waits. And when you're ready, it's here." She ended with a whisper, "I love you." Even if she never lets you say it back. She saved the file under a folder labeled Ben when he's ready. Then she opened her browser, typed in a search, beachfront rentals, long-term, pet-friendly. By midnight, she had booked a 2-bedroom cottage 3 blocks from the water, light blue shutters, a small porch swing, room enough for peace. She closed her laptop and looked around the room, still hers for now, but not for long. Then her phone vibrated once. A new email, subject line, "Incoming, Lauren's going public." Again. Judy opened it. Attached, a preview clip. Lauren. Again. But this time, not on a couch. Standing in front of a courthouse. "This isn't over," Lauren said into the camera. And for once, Judy agreed. The courtroom smelled like stale wood polish and indifference. Judy sat at the plaintiff's table in a slate blue blazer she hadn't worn since Ben's 8th grade graduation. Her hands rested flat on a manila folder thick with evidence, copies, notarizations, statements, photographs, everything cataloged, color-coded, and painfully familiar. Lauren sat across the aisle, lips glossed, hair ironed to perfection, her eyes darting like they were searching for an exit that didn't exist. Kyle sat behind her, not beside. His posture was polite, his expression unreadable, like he was there out of obligation, not allegiance. The bailiff called for silence, the judge entered, and the reckoning began. Harper took the lead, guiding Judy through the initial testimony. No theatrics, no storytelling, just facts, dates, documents. Judy described how Lauren had used her name on mortgage refinance papers, how her signature was lifted from an old DMV form, how Lauren had listed the property for rent without consent, and how Judy had discovered it all, piece by piece, like a puzzle she never wanted to solve. Lauren's lawyer objected, relevance, hearsay, character assassination, but the judge overruled each one with surgical boredom. Then came the part Judy had rehearsed but never spoken aloud. I was erased, she said plainly, from the property records, from my own utility bills, from birthday parties in my own backyard. Harper paused. And what was your daughter's justification? Judy looked straight at Lauren. She called it optimization. The court stenographer stopped typing for a half-second, just enough to register the silence. Cross-examination was clumsy. Lauren's attorney tried to paint Judy as confused, emotionally unstable, spiteful. Judy remained composed. Her answers were clear, no sarcasm, no trembling. Then Lauren took the stand. That was when things started to break. She looked directly at the judge, not the jury. Her voice was syrup-sweet, laced with practiced vulnerability. I was trying to help her. My mother's always struggled with boundaries. She accused me of stealing when I was just trying to protect what she built. And the forged mortgage? Harper asked. Lauren blinked. She told me to handle the paperwork. She didn't want the stress. Did she say that in writing? But she... Harper raised a hand. Did she ever sign the refinancing forms in your presence? I don't recall. And the notarized copies? I submitted those through a digital service. Harper held up the notary stamp audit log. This digital notary doesn't exist. Lauren opened her mouth, then shut it. The courtroom went still. Then Harper asked, Did your mother authorize you to remove her from the mortgage title? I didn't remove her, Lauren's voice cracked. It was a draft. I never submitted it. But you prepared it? I was going to ask her. But you didn't? Lauren looked to Kyle as if for help. He looked away. Then it was Judy's turn to make a statement. The judge gave her 3 minutes. She only needed 1. She used my love as collateral, Judy said, her voice neither loud nor trembling. Every deposit, every lie, every rental agreement in my name was signed in the ink of my sacrifices. She turned her head, meeting her daughter's eyes for the first time since the party. She didn't just forge my name, she forged a version of our story that made her the victim, and I let her for too long. The judge blinked slowly, then nodded. We'll break for lunch, he said. Recess until 2:15. Lauren stepped down from the stand on unsteady feet. Her ankle wobbled slightly in her heels. She looked younger suddenly, no longer polished or poised, just undone. She walked straight past Kyle. He didn't follow. Judy didn't move. She sat at the table, folder closed now, hands folded in her lap. As the room emptied, Kyle finally approached, this time with no mug in his hand, no peace offering. She's unraveling, he said quietly. She blames you for all of it. Judy looked up at him, eyes cool. She always did. He nodded, then handed her an envelope. Thought you should see this. It's emails, from her, about the refinance. She did it alone. Judy took it slowly. Why give it to me now? Kyle looked down. Because I think I was her cover story, and I'm done being a footnote. Judy didn't answer. She didn't need to. She opened the envelope. Inside were 6 printed emails, all signed, all time-stamped, all damning. The courtroom was still mostly empty after recess. Harper returned first, nodding at Judy as she slipped into the seat beside her. You good? Judy held up the envelope Kyle had given her. Better than good. They reviewed the emails in a silence. 6 total, each one damning. Lauren writing to a mortgage broker under Judy's name. Lauren attaching scanned documents. Lauren noting that Kyle doesn't need to know. I'll loop him in later. Harper whistled under her breath. She forged and concealed. Is that a legal term? Judy asked. No, Harper said. It's a confession in paragraphs. In the hallway just outside the courtroom, Kyle leaned against a vending machine, tie loosened, eyes ringed with exhaustion. When Judy stepped into view, he stood straighter. I meant it, he said quietly. About being done. She studied him for a long beat. What changed? He let out a bitter laugh. The last straw? She emailed my father asking him to co-sign a second refinance behind my back, said I was emotionally compromised by proximity. Her words. Judy nodded slowly. And are you? I was, he admitted, for too long. There was a silence between them, not cold, just honest. She told me you had early memory loss, he said, that you were leaving burners on, wandering off. Judy scoffed. If I was going to wander off, it would have been to Mexico. Kyle smiled, then looked down at the floor. She built a world where you were the liability. And I bought it. For years. I let her paint you as unstable because it made my life easier. You're not the first man who found comfort in believing a difficult woman must be broken, Judy said, voice steady. He nodded, accepting the sting. I filed for divorce this morning, he said, eyes finally meeting hers. She doesn't know yet. She'll find out when the papers arrive. Judy's stomach flipped. Not from joy, but from something closer to grief. Not for Lauren. For what Lauren had once been. She'll come after you, Judy said. I'm counting on it, Kyle replied. I want everything on record now. Judy looked back toward the courtroom door. She's going to burn the floor under her own feet. And I'm done holding the fire extinguisher. He reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a thumb drive and handed it to her. Everything's on here, emails, call logs, even the draft of the fake quitclaim she saved to our shared cloud by mistake. The timestamps match the forged notary files. Judy took it without a word. It's all yours now, Kyle said. Do what you have to do. He started to walk away, then paused. I'm sorry, Judy, for not seeing it sooner, for not believing you. She looked down at the small piece of plastic in her hand, so light and yet so heavy. I don't need your apology, she said quietly. I needed your honesty. He nodded once, then turned and disappeared into the elevator. Back inside the courtroom, Harper uploaded the emails into evidence. The judge reviewed the motion without commentary. Lauren returned 5 minutes late, red-eyed, jaw tight, clearly unaware the case had just pivoted under her heels. Defense would like to request a recess before entering rebuttal, her lawyer said. The judge didn't look up. Denied. Proceed. As Harper began reading from the emails, Lauren's head whipped toward Kyle's empty chair. Confusion morphed to panic. She whispered something to her attorney. The woman shook her head slowly, eyes resigned. Exhibit 54A, Harper said, holding up the printout. Email from Lauren Richards to broker Jeff Hamill. My husband doesn't need to know about this yet. Judy trusts me implicitly. She won't ask questions. Judy sat still, not triumphant, just steady. Lauren stood up suddenly as if to interrupt, but the judge banged his gavel lightly. Ms. Richards, he said, you are advised not the drywall, not the locks, not the grave of old memories buried beneath coats of paint and surveillance cameras. She slipped the folder back into her tote and exhaled. Not relief, not yet. Something more like release. The escrow office was quiet when she dropped off the paperwork. No ceremony, no handshake, just a scanned ID, a smile from the receptionist, and a stamp. Congratulations, Ms. Richards, the woman said, sliding over a confirmation sheet. Judy didn't respond. She didn't need to. Outside, the sky was pale with salt-stained light, and the parking lot glimmered with a fine layer of dew. Judy sat in her car, turned the engine off, and stared at the account balance on her phone. 6 figures. It looked foreign, like a stranger's savings. She stared at it for a long time. Then she tapped the transfer option. She had already researched the nonprofit. The Landing Room, a women's shelter downtown that offered job training, childcare, and legal aid. They didn't advertise donors, didn't slap your name on a wall. That's what she liked about them. She entered half the proceeds into the donation field. It asked, "Would you like to be acknowledged?" She tapped number. Then she hit send. The screen refreshed. Confirmation. Successful. A new kind of silence filled the car. Not loneliness. Space. 2 weeks later, she received a padded envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside, handwritten letters. Some were typed, others were scribbled in crayon, blocky and full of misspelled words. All of them came from women at the landing room. One read, "I didn't think anyone saw me. And then your gift arrived like a light switch. My son and I are sleeping in a room with a lock now. Thank you." Another said, "I used to think survival was all I'd ever get. You reminded me that dignity is possible." Judy pressed the pages to her chest. Something in her cracked, not open but upward. She cried finally, not because she was broken, because she wasn't. That night she opened a fresh document on her laptop. The cursor blinked at her like a dare. She titled it, "Deeds and Daughters." And then she typed, "This isn't a story about real estate. This is a story about reclamation, one signature at a time." The words came slow, deliberate. Some nights she typed 3 pages, others just one sentence, but each line stitched something back into place. She didn't edit much. Not yet. The rawness had its own rhythm. She wrote about Lauren, yes, but also about her own mother, about the lipstick in the cereal, the coupons she clipped during Lauren's piano lessons, the bruises no one saw when she worked triple shifts. But she also wrote about herself, not just the mother, the woman, the builder, the witness. She hadn't spoken to Lauren since the courtroom, and she didn't plan to. But one afternoon, while editing a chapter titled, "Inheritance is a Quiet War," her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Voicemail left. She hesitated, then hit play. It was Ben. "Hi, Grandma. I found the video. The one you made for me. I don't know what to say, except I believe you. I believe all of it." He paused, then, "I hope I'm not too late to still be part of your story." The message ended, and for the first time in months, Judy smiled and whispered aloud, not to anyone in particular, but to the air itself, "You're right on time." The park Lauren chose was carefully curated. Neutral territory, no courthouse walls, no cameras, just a sculpted public green on the edge of downtown with manicured benches, swan-shaped paddle boats, and overpriced bottled water from the food cart kiosk. Judy arrived early and chose the only bench without a view, facing a row of low hedges and a faded bulletin board advertising missing cats and yoga classes. She didn't bring anything with her. No folder, no notes, not even her phone. When Lauren arrived, she wore oversized sunglasses and a trench coat too dramatic for the weather. Her heels clicked on the cobblestone path like punctuation, urgent, deliberate, trying to sound like purpose. Judy didn't stand. Lauren sat beside her, just close enough to create discomfort, but not intimacy. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Lauren sighed, heavy, theatrical. "I didn't want it to come to this." Judy said nothing. Lauren's fingers twisted together in her lap. "I wasn't trying to hurt you." Still, Judy said nothing. "I was under pressure. The mortgage, the cost of school for Ben, the image of everything. People expected us to look a certain way, like we had our lives together." Judy tilted her head slightly. Not in agreement, just acknowledgement. Lauren continued, faster now, like she was afraid silence might return before she was done. "You don't know what it's like," she said, "to constantly be expected to maintain, to perform. You had it hard, sure, but people didn't expect anything from you. They just let you survive. I'm not allowed to survive. I have to succeed." Judy turned to her daughter slowly. "You stole my name," she said evenly. "You sold pieces of my life and called it ambition." Lauren looked away, eyes glassy behind her sunglasses. I know I messed up, but I was just trying to build something." "You didn't build," Judy said. "You inherited, and then you gutted it." Lauren flinched. Judy looked back at the hedge. "Why now?" she asked, not bitter, just genuinely curious. Lauren hesitated. "Because Ben's talking to you, because I see him slipping from me and You mean you're losing control?" Lauren's voice cracked. "He's my son." "No," Judy said, turning again. "He's his own." A silence opened between them. This one wasn't tense. It was hollow. Lauren pulled off her sunglasses then, revealing swollen eyes and a smear of concealer that hadn't held up. She looked older, not from age, but from exposure. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Judy let the words sit. Then, You never lost a mother." Lauren blinked. "You threw her away." A soft wind picked up, rustling the flyers on the bulletin board. Judy stood. Lauren stayed seated, frozen like someone waiting for mercy that wouldn't come. Judy looked down at her one last time. "I buried my apology years ago," she said, "next to the woman who believed you still had goodness left." She walked away then, steady steps over the cobblestone. The wind moved with her, a tailwind now, not resistance. Behind her, Lauren's voice called out once, sharp and desperate. "Mom, please!" Judy didn't stop, not out of cruelty, out of truth. She reached the sidewalk, sunlight casting her shadow long and unbent in front of her. A child on a scooter zipped by, laughing. A dog barked. Life moved. At the corner, her phone buzzed. A text from Ben. "Can I visit you this weekend?" She smiled, tucked the phone away without answering yet. She wanted to enjoy the feeling of being asked, and being able to say yes. The town didn't have a stoplight, but it had a bakery that opened before sunrise and a bookstore that stayed open after dinner. Judy found herself in both, often. Her cottage sat 3 blocks from the ocean, tucked behind a crooked picket fence and a rosemary bush determined to become a hedge. It smelled like salt and old paint, and every window caught some kind of light. On good days, she opened them all. No cameras, no rules, no whispering footsteps just beyond her door, just Judy, and silence that didn't accuse. The podcast dropped in late spring, an hour-long episode titled Inheritance and Intention, The Woman Who Took Her Name Back. Marla Feldman had recorded the interview in Judy's living room back in the city, before the final court date, before the move. Judy hadn't expected much from it. A curiosity, maybe. A ripple that would vanish in the tide of the internet. Instead, it sparked something. Emails rolled in again. Then postcards. Handwritten letters with shaky cursive and lipstick kisses in the corner. Messages from women who had been erased, edited, or economically cornered. Women who'd signed papers they never read because they were taught not to ask. Women who'd been called paranoid for daring to protect what was theirs. The local hardware store clerk stopped her one morning while she browsed paint samples. "Are you her?" he asked. "The woman from the podcast?" She hesitated. "Depends." "What did she do?" "Rebuilt." She smiled. "Then yes." Judy started volunteering on Thursdays at a small community center tucked between a surf shop and a laundromat. It served mostly single women, some older, some with toddlers, all looking for a foothold in a life that didn't offer easy places to land. She taught a class called Paper Armor. It wasn't about defense. It was about knowledge, leases, wills, power of attorney, basic rights. "Read everything," she told them, "even the parts that sound too boring to ruin you." Word spread. Quietly, respectfully. Women stopped her in the grocery aisle or waved from the post office steps. They didn't ask for selfies, they asked for forms, referrals, reassurance. "You're a legend around here," a teenager told her while she helped organize a donation drive. Judy just shook her head. "Number I'm a footnote with good timing." But secretly she liked the myth of it, the idea that reclaiming your life could become folklore. On her 69th birthday, Judy walked into the bakery at dawn. The owner, a woman named Gloria with hands like rolling pins, greeted her with a grin. "You ready for that cake?" Gloria asked. Judy nodded. "And I want it how I want it." They picked a white velvet base, raspberry filling, buttercream thick enough to ruin lipstick, but it wasn't the flavor that mattered. It was the inscription. Judy. Just Judy. No mom. No to the best. No from all of us. Just her name. Centered. Unapologetic. That night, she lit one candle and sliced the cake herself. The wind outside smelled like ocean and lavender. Her living room glowed with lamplight and her latest watercolor, a coastal skyline, blurred and bright. She sat at her table, barefoot, music low, a paintbrush still, stained with ochre in her apron pocket. One bite in, her phone buzzed. A voicemail again, from Benjamin. "Hi, Grandma. I'm thinking of applying to a college out there. They have a dual enrollment program, art and architecture. You once told me buildings are just declarations we live inside. I want to build things people can live in, Honestly, I was wondering, could I stay with you a while? There was a pause, then, also, I hope there's cake left. She played the message twice. Then she set her fork down, stood slowly, and crossed to the window. Outside, the moon hung low and full, tide rolling in. She whispered, to no one and to everything, there's always cake. Judy was scrubbing paint off the rim of a mason jar when she heard the knock. 3 taps, spaced like someone unsure whether they were welcome. She rinsed her hands, grabbed a dish towel, and opened the door. Ben stood on the porch, backpack slung over one shoulder, hoodie half-zipped, eyes older than they had any right to be. He looked like someone arriving from exile, with nothing rehearsed, nothing packaged. "Hi," he said. Judy nodded once. "You hungry?" He exhaled, half laugh, half relief. "Starving." She moved aside. Inside, the house smelled like lavender oil and drying acrylic. The beach breeze curled through the windows, rustling papers on the table and nudging the calendar where she'd circled B-Day Cake Judy in red ink. Ben dropped his bag gently by the couch, sat at the kitchen island, and watched her pull out leftovers. He didn't say much at first, just ate. Grilled vegetables, cold pasta, 2 slices of birthday cake she hadn't planned to save. Midway through the second slice, he looked up. "I left." Judy didn't ask where from. She waited. "Mom said it'd pass," he added. "That I'd come to my senses. But I already had." He pushed his fork aside. "I don't want her money," he said, voice steady. "I want your respect, and a life that doesn't feel like theater." Judy's breath caught so sharp and sudden it almost made a sound. No one had ever asked for her respect before. Not like that. Ben reached into his hoodie pocket and slid out a creased drawing. Charcoal on vellum. A sketch of a small cottage, wind-bent trees, and a front porch with one crooked railing. He'd even captured the rosemary bush. "It's for my portfolio," he said. "Art and architecture, dual enrollment. They accepted my preliminary submission this morning." Judy stared at the paper, hand hovering over it like she was afraid it might dissolve. Then she touched it. And then she cried. Not the quiet, dignified tears she'd mastered after years of disappointments. These were unshaped, full-bodied sobs. Tears from somewhere deeper, somewhere dust-covered. Ben stood and wrapped his arms around her. She held on, and didn't let go first. Later that night, she started the guardianship paperwork. It wasn't necessary. Ben was almost legal. But it mattered. "I don't want it for control," she told him. "I want it for the record, so that somewhere officially, someone wrote down, he chose me." Ben smiled. "Then let's write it down." She called Carla, her estate lawyer, the next morning, explained everything. Carla listened, paused, and then said, This is the good kind of paperwork." That week, Judy framed the drawing Ben had given her, hung it in the hallway just outside her bedroom, between the thermostat and the light switch. Every time she passed it, she tapped the edge like a blessing. Word spread quietly through the town. The legend had a grandson now. One afternoon, as they walked back from the library, Ben carrying 2 sketchbooks, Judy holding reusable grocery bags, a woman from the center waved them over. "Heard he moved in," she said, smiling. "Must be nice, having someone who knows the value of what you built." Judy didn't answer right away. She just looked at Ben, then back at the woman. "It's nicer," she said, "having someone who wants to help build what's next." That night, Ben made dinner, grilled cheese and tomato soup, half-burned and perfect. Afterward, they sat on the porch swing she'd finally had installed. The wind moved through the trees. Someone down the street played a record loud enough to hear, Ella Fitzgerald, Honey Warm. Judy closed her eyes. "This," she whispered, "is what inheritance should feel like." Ben didn't respond. He just reached over and, without saying anything, held her hand. Inside, Judy's phone buzzed, a voicemail, from an unknown number. She almost didn't check it, but then she did. A voice, low and male. "Ms. Richards, this is Officer Garrick with the County Sheriff's Department. I need to speak with you regarding a new development in the Richards case. Something's come to light." The message ended. Judy stared at the phone. The breeze chilled slightly. She stood, slow and steady, and walked inside. The new nameplate arrived on a Tuesday. Small brushed brass, the kind that caught just enough sun to glint at certain angles. Judy unpacked it from a slim, cardboard box and traced the engraving with her thumb. Judith Marlene Richards, no title, no suffix, no "in loving memory" preamble, just her name, whole and unabridged. She stepped onto the porch barefoot, feeling the warmth of the planks beneath her soles, and screwed it into the frame beside the front door with deliberate turns. No one watched. No one interrupted. She stood back once it was done. For the first time in years, her name was somewhere it couldn't be erased. Ben helped her string lights that afternoon, soft golden ones that curled like vines across the railing and blinked gently as the evening came in. At 6 sharp, guests began to arrive. Not friends in the traditional sense, not family by blood, just people like her. Marcia, who had once been forced out of her own apartment by her adult daughter's boyfriend. Tina, whose sister had sued her for emotional theft after being left out of a wedding party. Even old Dolores from Judy's former neighborhood showed up, hair dyed fire truck red, wearing a leather jacket over a floral dress like she was declaring dual citizenship between defiance and grace. Judy greeted each of them with a glass of chilled white wine or sweet tea and a card on which she'd hand-lettered their names. Not place cards, just proof. Everyone here had a name and a place. The dining table was 2 card tables pushed together, covered with mismatched linens and plates that didn't quite coordinate. The centerpiece was a bowl of lemons because she forgot to buy flowers, but nobody noticed. Or if they did, they didn't care. They laughed. God, they laughed. They told stories, ones they'd never said aloud before, about betrayals so ridiculous they almost circled back to comedy, about moments when they realized the family they'd spent years tiptoeing around wasn't family at all, just obligation stitched with guilt. Judy didn't dominate the night. She didn't have to. But when someone asked what made her finally walk away, she only said, "Because I got tired of mistaking silence for peace." Later, while dishes soaked in the sink and the porch lights danced in the breeze, Ben helped her clear glasses and crumbs, a bowl of olives, 3 forks, 1 story mid-sentence. He paused at the door. "You built something tonight?" She smiled. "I know." When the house went quiet and the guests had melted back into the night, Judy lit a candle and sat with her journal. The good one, the one with the leather cover and the purple ribbon bookmark. She opened to a blank page. The ink took a second to start. Then she wrote, "Freedom has a flavor, and it tastes nothing like silence." She closed the book, leaned back in her chair, and let her body relax in a way it hadn't in years. No guards left to post, no storms to outrun, just wind outside and laughter still clinging to the walls like perfume. At midnight, she stepped out onto the porch. The rosemary bush rustled softly in the breeze, and the porch swing creaked once, as if remembering someone had been there. She looked at the nameplate again. No edits, no aliases, no omissions, just her. The wind shifted. She whispered to it. Not a wish, not a prayer, just a punctuation. "She tried to bury me in silence. I built a home with it instead."